This is the 7th Infinity Stone. In the Marvel movies, we only know 6: soul, power, space, mind, reality, and time. But in the comics, there's one more. The Infinity Stones were created by a cosmic entity called Nemesis. She divided all of her power into 7 parts. 6 were scattered across the main Marvel universe, while the 7th was lost in an alternate reality known as the Ultraverse. That is the Ego Stone. Unlike the others, it grants its wielder the knowledge of all the secrets of the universe. However, there's a terrifying detail. This stone carries the very consciousness of Nemesis herself, which means if you use it, you'll know everything, but you'll no longer be yourself. And even worse, if all 7 stones are ever brought together, Nemesis would be resurrected. This is the Arachnite. In an alternate reality created by Gamora with the Infinity Stones, Peter Parker accompanied his aunt and uncle on a visit to a renowned science festival held at the Natural History Museum. On their way back home, instead of taking a cab, he convinced them to cross through Central Park. That was the moment tragedy struck. The trio was ambushed by the villain known as the Night Goblin. The attack was brutal. His aunt and uncle lost their lives, and Peter was left gravely wounded. Yet, as he lay on the ground, moments from death, a mystical spider bit him. That encounter not only saved his life, but also granted him unique abilities tied to the power of the spider totem. But the price was steep. His mind fractured into 4 distinct personalities. At first, Peter tried to resist the voices in his head, but over time he realized he couldn't ignore them. Each one began to take control over different aspects of his existence. By day, he became a brilliant magnate, founder of Parker Industries. By night, however, he emerged as the enigmatic Arachnite. His identities were split between the visionary businessman, the aggressive warrior, the ingenious scientist, and the heroic arachnid. What if I told you that the elongated man is not the same character that makes Batman scared to death? That's right. Although many people mix them up, they're completely different. At first, their powers might look the same, but when you take a closer look, they're really not. The elongated man is a character connected to the Flash. He shows up in several DC comics, and yes, he does have the ability to stretch. But don't be fooled. The guy who really terrifies Batman, and the one even Superman can't defeat, is someone else, Plastic Man. And the difference between them goes way beyond just the name. While the elongated man is only someone with a flexible body, Plastic Man is infinitely more powerful. He can't be hypnotized, he's immune to psychic attacks, and not even fire, acid, or anything else can hurt him. That's because when he got his powers, he literally turned into living rubber. In the end, the two may share the idea of stretching. But only Plastic Man is truly seen as a real threat among the greatest heroes in the DC universe. What happens when Venom uses a corpse as a host? Venom was locked in a desperate battle against a cosmic vampire, a creature that feeds on the very essence of symbiotes. Exhausted and on the verge of defeat, the alien sought an extreme solution. He returned to the grave of Lee Price, one of his former hosts, and before the mortal remains made an unthinkable decision to merge with the corpse. The result was a grotesque fusion. Pieces of Lee's decayed body protruded through the symbiote, forming a horrifying sight straight out of a nightmare. And yet, this macabre union granted Venom temporary power, enough for him to rise again and strike his foe with renewed fury. The battle was brutal, but this time he managed to bring down the cosmic vampire. The victory, however, was short-lived. Before Venom could even breathe a sigh of relief, his greatest enemy appeared, Mac Gargan. With a treacherous strike, he claimed the new host for himself, tearing the symbiote away from that unholy fusion. Now weakened and alone, Venom watched his triumph collapse before his eyes, leaving him vulnerable and once again drowning in despair. When Batman receives Superman's powers through a mystical artifact, the Dark Knight uses this overwhelming strength to fight crime worldwide, almost like a god on Earth. But soon, the power corrupts him. Arrogant and ruthless, he begins to see himself above everyone, even his closest allies. In a violent outburst, Bruce nearly kills Bane with a single punch, injures Catwoman, and shatters Nightwing's jaw. Realizing the danger, the Justice League confronts him on the moon. While they hold back, Batman shows no restraint, hurling Wonder Woman back to Earth, burning Red Tornado with heat vision, and suffocating Hawkgirl by removing her oxygen. End. The end. Superman's plan saves the day. The artifact granted wishes. Clark longed for a normal life, while Bruce wished for power to protect the world. With that, the powers returned to Superman, ending the dark era of a superpowered Batman. This may be the worst mutant power of all. Mr. Immortal, as his very name suggests, possesses the ability of immortality. But this isn't just any kind of immortality. A cosmic entity revealed to him that he is the only being in all of existence who is truly incapable of dying. No matter what happens, no matter what is injected into his blood, be it a cure, a poison, or even something meant to strip away his powers, absolutely nothing can prevent him from being immortal. Time itself may erase entire civilizations, destroy planets, and extinguish stars. But when everything is gone, when there are no living beings left, not even a single atom remaining, he will still exist, trapped in endless solitude. Mr. Immortal has tried countless times to end his own existence, yet every attempt has failed, and so he is forced to endure a cruel fate, to be the only one who will live forever, condemned to wander alone through eternity. Batman's contingency plan for Wonder Woman is perhaps the boldest of them all. Everyone knows that, for the sake of security, the Dark Knight has prepared a way to neutralize each member of the Justice League if things ever went out of control. But Diana is unlike the others. She has no single, clear weakness like Superman's kryptonite. Instead, she's a seasoned warrior, armed with centuries of combat knowledge, immense strength, and nearly unmatched endurance. That makes her one of the hardest opponents to ever plan against. Theoretically, the only way to bring her down would be to keep her fighting endlessly, pushing her to the point of collapse from sheer exhaustion. But even that is nearly impossible, given her resilience and willpower. When Batman eventually reveals his secret files to Superman, Clark is stunned by the precision and ruthlessness of each plan. Case by case, Bruce shows how he could dismantle his closest allies if the unthinkable ever happened. But when they arrive at Wonder Woman's file, Clark opens the package only to find it completely empty. Confused, he frowns and looks back at Bruce for an explanation. Batman doesn't need many words. With a short, sharp response, he makes it clear his only contingency plan for Wonder Woman is himself. The Joker rips off Robin's face and serves it to Batman for dinner. One day, the Dark Knight woke up tied to a chair. Not knowing how he had ended up there, the Joker was holding him captive in one of his twisted games, preparing one last act before death. But Batman was not alone. The entire Bat family had also been invited to a dinner the Joker had prepared. Something was off about them. All of them had bloodied bandages covering their faces. At that moment, Batman was even more shocked than when Batgirl had told him she was pregnant. Then the Joker revealed his macabre plan. He had served the faces of the Bat family to Batman, and even said that everything had been done with so much love for him. Consumed by fury, the Dark Knight was foaming with rage, but the Joker wasn't finished yet. He staged another deadly game with the Bat family and set everyone at the table on fire. Batman managed to free himself and blow up the ceiling, causing water to crash down on everyone and preventing them from burning alive. In the end, the Joker revealed it had all been just another one of his little jokes. This Joker is truly insane. This guy is addicted to being saved by Spider-Man. His name is Perry. It all starts when Spider-Man pulls him out of trouble. But soon, Peter realizes he's rescuing the same guy over and over again, practically every single day. Confused, he mentions it to the Human Torch, who bursts out laughing and reveals that he knows this guy well. Perry spent an entire year being saved by the Fantastic Four. In other words, he's addicted to putting himself in danger just to be rescued. Tired of the situation, Peter asks Johnny for help, and they come up with a plan. The next day, Perry rushes into danger again, expecting Spider-Man to save him. But instead of the real hero, a sloppy version shows up, looking like a cheap cosplay. Peter explains that the real Spider-Man is busy, and that this version would be the one to save Perry that day. Perry is outraged and decides to finally give up his obsession with Spider-Man, but he doesn't abandon the habit entirely. He just goes off to find another superhero to get addicted to being saved by. The three most useless powers in Marvel Comics. In third place, we have Glob Herman. At first glance, it might sound interesting, but his ability is only to make his skin invisible. The problem is that his bones and organs remain completely exposed, making him an even easier target. To make things worse, his skin is made of a wax-like substance, which makes him highly flammable. In second place is a mutant known as Longneck. His power was stretching his neck up to nearly 2 meters, but aside from being a very limited ability, he lost it during the events of M-Day and met a tragic end when his own neck couldn't support its weight. And at the very top, in first place, we have Bailey Hoskins. He had perhaps the most problematic power of all, the ability to self-destruct in an explosion. The catch? He could only use it once, with no control over when it would happen. Because of that, he was forced to wear a special armored suit to keep others safe in case his body detonated. But after all, what's the real difference between Kryptonians and Viltrumites? At first, they might seem alike. Super-powered beings with immense strength and speed. But their abilities, origins, and the way they develop them are actually quite different. Kryptonians, for example, have 4 extra powers compared to Viltrumites. Ice breath, heat vision, super scream, and X-ray vision. These extra abilities give them a much broader range of options, both in combat and everyday situations. Another major difference is how their strength grows over time. Viltrumites become stronger as they age. Their bodies adapt, their aging slows dramatically, and they can live for billions of years without losing power. Kryptonians, however, draw their power from a yellow sun. The more solar energy their cells absorb, the stronger, faster, and more resilient they become. With enough sunlight, their blood becomes so pure that their cells almost stop aging completely, meaning they could potentially live forever under the right conditions. After suddenly pulling the blanket off a baby and making him cry, Thanos tells the child that this was only the first of many birthdays to come. Years later, on David's 5th birthday, after he complains about a monster haunting him every year, Thanos kills his father in a car accident. When David turns 16, Thanos grabs his phone and sends cruel messages to his girlfriend, causing her to break up with him instantly. When David asks why, Thanos simply replies, "Happy birthday." This torment continues for years. On his 21st birthday, Thanos poisons the drinks at David's party, killing all his friends. At 25, he burns down the college David had just been accepted into. By 27, when David blames him for losing his job, Thanos laughs and says that was just bad luck, before revealing he actually killed David's cat. On his 30th birthday, for the first time, Thanos doesn't appear. David sees on TV that the Avengers have banished Thanos, and he celebrates his long-awaited freedom. But when he turns 31, Thanos returns, apologizes for missing last year, and promises it will never happen again, snapping his fingers and sending David's entire house into a massive abyss. By David's 45th birthday, Thanos finds him in a miserable state. David starts a desperate speech, believing he finally understands why Thanos has tormented him all these years. But Thanos interrupts, saying he doesn't care. He smashes the ceiling, floods the house, and leaves after wishing him another happy birthday.
What does the actor who played the first Hulk look like today? Is he still strong, even after nearly 45 years? The Hulk TV series became very popular and was extremely important, especially because it brought the character to life for television audiences. It aired from 1978 to 1982, and back then there were no advanced visual effects like we have today. So, they needed a truly strong actor to play the role convincingly. To create the show, 2 actors were cast, one to play the scientist Bruce Banner and another to portray the Hulk. The role of the Hulk was given to bodybuilder Lou Ferrigno. At the time, he weighed around 130 kilograms, about 287 lbs, to maintain the physical look needed for the character. It required a strict and heavy diet, along with intense training, to reach his full potential and bring as much realism as possible to the screen. After the series ended, Lou Ferrigno continued to work with the character, providing the voice of the Hulk in several films, including the first Avengers movie and Avengers: Age of Ultron. Today, he lives in Los Angeles and, at 70 years old, he's still strong and going strong. Have you ever heard of the skinny version of the Hulk? Well, in the Immortal Hulk series, we're introduced to a very different take on the character, a green giant, but he looks dehydrated and almost completely lacking in muscle. This version is actually one of Hulk's multiple personalities, but with the mindset of a 4-year-old child. Yep, seriously. What's more, he's one of the most peaceful, and honestly, one of the weakest versions of the Hulk. At one point, he even got beat up by the Thing and ended up crying, begging for the fight to stop. In the end, he's just a kid trapped in a monster's body. Sometimes you'll even see him playing with toys, totally entertained like nothing's wrong. Did you already know about this version of the Hulk? Let me know in the comments. What happens if Billy Batson says Shazam underwater? Does it still work? There's a lesser-known movie called The Return of Black Adam, and it even features a special appearance by Superman. Right at the beginning, we see Superman fighting Black Adam as soon as he arrives on Earth, leaving a trail of destruction through the city. The villain was after Billy, who hadn't even received his powers yet. Totally confused, Billy runs away and ends up meeting the wizard Shazam. Again, during this escape, he finally says the magic word, Shazam, and transforms for the very first time. He starts fighting Black Adam, and during the battle, the two end up flying over the ocean. Billy, excited about his new powers, shouts, Shazam! Midair, and that's when things go wrong. He turns back into his human form and falls straight into the sea. The most curious part, while he was drowning, he tried saying Shazam again. And how did he manage to transform? Thanks to the air bubbles coming out of his mouth. That allowed the word to be heard, and boom, he transformed again underwater. Bro, did you know Thanos' secret son might have shown up in Avengers Endgame and no one noticed? Remember that scene at the end during Tony Stark's funeral? There's this random teenager standing alone and everyone was like, who the heck is that? Well, that's Harley Keener, the genius kid from Iron Man 3 who helped Tony fix his suit in the middle of nowhere. But after that, he just disappeared from the MCU until suddenly popping back up in Endgame. And here's where the wild theory begins. The writers once hinted that there were plans to turn him into something way bigger, maybe even a cosmic successor with alien DNA. Yeah, some fans believe Harley could actually be Thanos' secret heir, like a hidden project left on Earth waiting to awaken. Just imagine this kid coming back as a full-blown villain, genius level, intellect plus Titan level powers? Crazy, right? The future of the MCU might have been hiding in plain sight this whole time. Drop a comment. Did you ever notice this Easter egg? Click below to see how Robert Downey Jr. might return to. Have you ever heard of the slowest Flash of all time? Believe it or not, there are two bizarre versions of the Flash competing for that title. Literally. The first is Bizarro Flash, a character created by none other than Bizarro, the imperfect clone of Superman. He wanted to form his own version of the Justice League, but of course in his own weird way. And since everything in the Bizarro world is backwards, this Flash has a mustard stain on his chest instead of a lightning bolt. He's overweight and extremely lazy. He can actually run at super speed, but only for a few meters, before getting completely exhausted. But the trophy for the slowest Flash in history goes to an even more ridiculous version, the Bizarro Flash from the comic All-Star Superman. This guy is so slow, ridiculously slow, that his maximum speed is 5 centimeters per hour. That's right, a snail would be a speedster compared to him. Bro, did you know that the laser coming out of Cyclops' eyes isn't actually a laser, but energy from another dimension? A lot of people think the beams from his eyes burn and produce heat, but that's not really how it works. Cyclops' eyes act like interdimensional apertures that channel energy from an unknown dimension into our universe. That energy is released as pure concussive force, meaning it doesn't have heat. It just hits really, really hard. After years of being trashed in the papers, Spidey finally hires She-Hulk and decides to take Jameson to court. She tells him it's a guaranteed win, and Peter starts dreaming big, even, telling Mary Jane he'll use the money to build a spider cave. In court, the first witness is John Jameson, J. Jonah's son. He admits that after Spider-Man saved him from a space crash, his dad still ran a story saying Spidey sabotaged the mission. More witnesses follow, all saying the same thing. Jameson twisted the news to make Spider-Man look like a villain, just to sell more papers. Then they call Spider-Man himself to the stand. Jameson complains about the mask, but the Avengers pull out a device to confirm Spidey's identity. Peter gives his testimony. When asked why Jameson hates him so much, he drops this bomb. Maybe it's because I'm black. The courtroom goes silent. Jameson freaks out. I didn't know. I have black friends. Then Peter smiles and says he was just joking, and the whole courtroom bursts into laughter. But then, Peter Parker gets called in. Jameson says Peter gave him doctored photos. Peter admits he edited some, and now part of the blame falls on him. The next day, Peter shows up as Spider-Man and proposes a deal. I'll drop the lawsuit if you and Peter Parker both apologize, in public, dressed as chickens. To avoid paying a $300 million fine, J. Jonah finally gives in. And so, he and Peter show up in full chicken costumes, delivering the headline, Spider-Man is actually a good guy. Meanwhile, Jonah yells, I'll still get my revenge. What happens if Black Adam says Shazam after 5,000 years? After being banished for 5,000 years, in a lesser-known film called The Return of Black Adam, he escapes exile after being corrupted by power. As soon as he returns to Earth, he goes straight after Billy Batson, who is just about to receive his powers. In this film, even Superman shows up and immediately confronts Black Adam the moment he finds Billy. During the fight, they tear the city apart until Billy finally receives the powers from the wizard Shazam. In the middle of the battle, Black Adam causes a tragic casualty, which makes Billy snap and return to the fight full of rage. But Black Adam throws the kid into the sky and Superman saves him just in time. Billy gets furious and charges at Black Adam, landing a flurry of powerful hits until he finally takes him down. Defeated, Black Adam says that only death can stop him. That's when Mr. Tawny steps in and says he'll banish him again. So Black Adam says Shazam, and instantly ages 5,000 years in 1 second, dying on the spot. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe to Spider Dose. Why does Magneto never take off his helmet? Ever wondered why Magneto is always wearing that helmet? It's not just part of his armor, it's a matter of survival. Magneto knows that even though he's one of the most powerful mutants in the world, he could be taken down in seconds by someone like Charles Xavier, who used to be his friend. That helmet was specifically designed to block psychic attacks and protect his mind, making him completely immune to any telepath. This makes zero sense to me. Do you remember that scene in Deadpool and Wolverine, where Deadpool is literally killing TVA agents using Wolverine's skeleton? Bro, look how easily he's snapping adamantium bones. Seriously, when I saw that in the theater, I was like, how, man? It makes absolutely no sense, because adamantium is way stronger than vibranium. It just doesn't break. Okay, fine. I can kinda accept him ripping out the spine or the skull, cause there's cartilage, joints, soft tissue, stuff that could have decomposed over time, but breaking a rib? Nah, man, that's not happening. Adamantium is unbreakable, even if it's been sitting there for 1,000 years. The scene was cool, it was funny, but it makes zero sense. If you agree, drop a comment. The explanation for Deadpool being immortal is wrong in the movies. A lot of people think Deadpool can't die just because of his mutant healing factor, right? But that's not the full story. There's actually a much crazier reason. In the comics, when Deadpool died, he fell in love with Lady Death, the cosmic entity that represents death in the Marvel Universe. And guess what? Lady Death loved him back. The problem? Thanos was also completely in love with Death. Yeah, that love triangle wasn't going to end well, so Thanos cursed Deadpool, making him immortal. The curse was simple. You will never die, so you'll never be with Death. Even if Wade turns to dust, he always comes back. So yeah, his insane healing factor is actually thanks to Thanos' curse.
After becoming unworthy and no longer able to lift Mjolnir, Thor decides to walk away, leaving the hammer behind. But no matter where he went, Mjolnir kept following him, a constant reminder of his unworthiness. Frustrated beyond measure, Thor starts punching the hammer so hard that his hands begin to bleed. That's when Lei Kung, the Thunderer, appears and tells him, "That's not how you throw a punch." Lei Kung explains that Thor was hitting out of anger, not with focus, and that's why he was hurting himself more than the thing he was hitting. Deciding to teach Thor how to land a real punch, Lei Kung teleports him to the hidden city of Kowloon. There, he explains that the power of the Iron Fist still exists, but currently, there's no worthy wielder. Thor then officially begins his training to become the next Iron Fist. His challenge? Punching Mjolnir, a construct made of the toughest material across all realms, strong enough to shatter the bones of gods. For 30 days straight, Thor strikes the Mjolnir. His fists become as tough and unbreakable as Mjolnir itself, and when the hammer starts cracking under his blows, something wild happens. Mjolnir tries to dodge the punches and even fights back, but with sheer determination, Thor defeats the spirit within Mjolnir, finally rejecting his old title as the God of Thunder. Lei Kung returns. When Thor declares that he won't pick up the hammer again, the Thunderer congratulates him by punching him straight in the face. Thor, confused, asks, "What are you doing?" Lei Kung replies that destroying the hammer wasn't enough to become the Iron Fist. To truly earn it, Thor had to defeat the Thunderer himself. Without hesitation, Thor lands a punch so powerful, it sends Lei Kung flying absurdly far away. Smiling from the ground, Lei Kung admits, "I've never felt a punch so perfect." He says it was an honor guiding Thor to his destiny. Then comes the twist. Lei Kung reveals that the real purpose was never about helping Thor wield the Iron Fist or lift any weapon. It was about helping him embrace what he was born with, his own hands. Thus, Thor is officially named the God of Fists, the only one capable of facing the masters of evil.
Why is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man the only one with organic webs? If you grew up watching Tobey's Spider-Man, you might not even realize, but originally, Peter Parker wasn't supposed to shoot webs like that. In the comics, he was a science genius, so he actually invented his web shooters. But when the 2002 movie came around, director Sam Raimi had a different idea. He thought it made more sense if Peter's web was a biological power, like a real spider. That one change completely redefined how we saw Spider-Man's abilities. Then came the MCU, and the web shooters went back to tech. So now the question is, which version makes more sense? The scientific one or the biological one? Subscribe to Spider Dose or I'll web shoot you.